Hey, what's up, everyone? This is John, aka XHBK, aka HBK, aka Rio. I have a lot of names, but if you hear any of those, that's me. And I am here with a friend of mine, and this is kind of our pilot episode for a podcast we're going to start doing.
Yeah, we don't have a name for it yet, but we thought maybe since we don't have a name, at least we could give you our names. My name is Slusher, um, and that way you can maybe have an idea, just who we are and why we're talking about what we're talking about. And so we thought we would. So this is our episode of just kind of introducing one another and what we're all about, and mostly with pertaining to the general topic of the podcast, which is mostly just games and maybe some like movies and stuff like that here and there.
Yeah.
But before we do get into the main part of the podcast, which is the introductions, I thought maybe we'd go over just maybe what games you've been playing this last week, or if there's anything that you want to talk about, even if it's like a movie or something like that that you saw this week.
Yeah, I think games has probably not been great for new things this past week.
Mm-hmm.
Got back into WoW a little bit at the end of the week, and really, I'm all there's the games that you always kind of play that are never ending nowadays, not just MMOs. So I guess Mortal Kombat 11 and WoW was my big ones this week. If anything, it was that we actually saw Joker in the past week.
Was that this week? No, that was 2 weeks ago, I think. But we can talk about
yeah,
it.
that's the most recent, I guess, for me. So we don't have to spend much time on that, but I'm probably in the minority, I guess, because I don't think it was as great. I was overhyped for it. That's my problem.
Yeah, I think I was overhyped for it as well. I mean, it's certainly, I would say, good, as in, like, I'm not disappointed I went. I was glad that I saw it. But, I thought I was going to love it, kind of based on the reaction of, like, my Twitter feed and stuff like that. And I would not say I loved it. In fact, I'll even be a little more bold than that, and I'll say about 3/4 of the way through, I was actually thinking that I hated it.
Yeah.
And I think it resolved in a way where not only was the ending good, but it sort of like made use of all the setup. Where it was like, okay, all of that stuff before that I was kind of bored with, it did serve a purpose to get us here. This ending wouldn't have been as good without it. So
yeah, I think it. If I mean, you probably agree with me on this, I know, but it's identical for me as Dark Phoenix and Joker are. It's weirdly the same thing. I went through the exact same experience. Most of the way through the movie, I didn't think either were good, and then the last 25%, it's like, okay, this is a good movie. Dark Phoenix for me was even better in that regard, but
I kind of agree and I kind of don't. I think that the ending of Joker needed the first hour and a half to be the way that it was.
That's true.
I think Dark Phoenix, they could have rewritten the first hour and a half. As long as the ending was the same, it would have been, the ending would have been equally good.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually did want to talk about a game, which is part of why I added this category.
Yeah.
Which is, I've been playing through Dragon Quest XI this week. Well, for the last couple weeks. It recently came out for the Switch. It's been out for a little over a year if you played the PlayStation 4 version. But the Switch is like, it's got extra features. So while the graphics on PS4 are a little bit better, the Switch version has a whole different extra area and stuff like that. But I've never been like a big Dragon Quest person. The only one I played before was Dragon Quest 8 on the PlayStation 2, which was quite a while ago. I think it came out in like 2007 or 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I've heard it's really good. I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm having fun playing it, and I definitely will be continuing to play it until I beat it. But there was one thing about it that really stuck out to me, what I wanted to mention was, like, it's really weird in that they're not hiding the machinery from you at all. And what I mean by that is, it's like super formulaic. Like, you go to a zone, like, you get access to a new area, and you go to, like, the city in the middle of the area, and they're like, hey, there's a monster in a cave nearby, get rid of it. So you go, you kill the monster, you come back, and then, like, the mayor will be like, here's a key to the next area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then, so then you go to the gate, it's a passport is what it actually is. And the guards will be like, hey, you need your passport, you give it, you show them the thing, and they're like, okay, you can go through. But it's just weird, because it's, like, literally, like, it's like you're entering a room with a locked door. You do a mission, and then you get the key to the door. Like it's straightforward. It's so on the nose. It just feels weird to play a game like that in 2019, where they're not like hiding the level mechanic of the game at all.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really weird. But while that criticism is like a real criticism, overall I think the game's pretty cool so far. I'm not like super far. I'm probably like 15 hours in. But yeah, that's where I'm at so far.
Yeah. Gosh, I think I want that kind of game, but I don't know if I have anything coming up.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, if that's everything that we wanted to talk about for like games and stuff that we played this week,
yep,
we can move on to the main portion, which was going to do the intro. It can be really awkward to talk about yourself, like just like introducing yourself with no prompt whatsoever. And so for that reason, we came up with the idea of doing interviews. We thought that it just would be a more interesting way of introducing one another than just us saying the things that we wanted to say. And so I'll start. I've prepared a lot of questions here. The first question being, tell me about a time when you went out of your way to please a client. No, I'm kidding. That's not. It's not that kind of interview.
I don't think I can disclose that on this.
Not that kind of interview. All right. So, very first question is going to be, what's your earliest memory of gaming?
This is hard because I honestly think it's the Intellivision. I am 37, so years wise, 85 was Nintendo, right? Is that right? NES.
I don't know the exact year.
I think that is right, but I could be off on that. I had one of those, but I would have been around 3 or 4, and I think that it was Intellivision. It's weird for me because it's hard for me to remember stuff from that age. I don't know if some people have that easy or not, but for me, I don't remember stuff real well from under 10 even that well anymore. And but I would say Intellivision. I can give an example at least. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Nintendo was Mario Brothers, obviously, if it was Nintendo. But I think it was Intellivision, and if you're not familiar with Intellivision, that was a weird remote control.
Yeah, it had like the card that you would slide into it.
It literally is like, it looks like a TV remote with like buttons 1 through whatever, 9 maybe, and then it had a dial on it.
What's funny is I thought about this question when I was writing it, and my answer was not Intellivision. But now that you mention it, I did play Intellivision. My very first babysitter ever had it, and so we used to play it there.
And I know there's different models, I guess, but so I can't answer that real well. I could figure out which model I had, but Intellivision or Atari I definitely had. So my game, and I don't know if I know the name of it, but the game I remember playing is, so you slid in the card for each game, had a different card for what the buttons did. And the only other thing on there was a dial that you turned.
Yeah.
Left and right. The game was, it was almost like what you would call a flight simulator today. Nothing like that, but it was like there's 3 things you could do in the game. You could control a tank, and I think that was kind of a PvP type game. Maybe only PvP.
Did it have bank shots off the wall?
I can't remember.
If it did, I think I played that game.
I can't even remember the third thing that you could do. But the main reason I'm saying this is the thing that I loved, and it was hard. And this is something, maybe that's where some of my personality has stemmed from. There was like a biplane that you would fly. I think everything was PvP. I just don't know if there was AI enemies at that.
Was the planes like Joust?
Kinda. It was, so the dial, I don't know if the buttons did anything for the plane. It was one screen. It didn't scroll or anything.
Yeah.
And there's a blue plane and a red plane. And I think you had to play a human player. And all you did was take off and turn the dial to tilt the plane up or down. And it was hard to control. Like anybody else, I didn't have that many people to play even at that age, because everybody else would just turn right into the wall or crash right into the ground immediately. Wasn't
it looping from side to side? Like if you went off one side, you'd come out on the other?
That I don't know. It might be up and down was the only border there. But
yeah. I feel like I played this game.
Yeah.
But I don't remember there being walls.
I just remember people crashing easily. You could shoot, too. You actually could shoot. So there must have been one button. But there were side buttons, too. So maybe that's what they did. But yeah, I like it because you basically just flow in a straight line, and then you would tilt it. I would always tilt it back to do like a loop-de-loop, stuff like that. But it's hard to control, and ever since then, I feel like that's one of my main things I like to do is figure out difficult or complex controls and make them look good on screen.
Okay. My next question: Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo?
I think that everybody I know as a friend, this is an easy question. I think I'm maybe the worst person to answer this question because kids back then didn't have both often.
No,
I probably shouldn't have. I would say I was spoiled, and the reason is I got the Super Nintendo right away, and I did not get. I had the Genesis because of a hand-me-down because I have older brothers, much older brother. I hate answering this question because I feel there's not a winner here. It would actually be a tie, but I probably am going to lean Genesis just because I feel like everybody I ever know leaned Super Nintendo, so I liked being the Genesis.
I actually did not know that you had both, so the question was actually supposed to be which one did you have?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because most kids, because we were kids.
Yeah.
We just
So that's a good point. That kind of brings up to my point is it's hard for me because I didn't. That's a good question. Usually it is one or two, and I think both are great systems. Genesis existed earlier, so that's part of it. But the reason I said Genesis as far as preferred, and it's barely, is because, like I said, every friend I had Super Nintendo. I was the only one with the Genesis for the most part, outside of some family back before I moved here. And yeah, Genesis had my library was better overall. I don't think I had better games necessarily. I had more of them.
Most played game from that generation.
This is funny because it's going to be the opposite of what I said. Probably Super Mario World.
Okay.
That's one thing Genesis didn't have. It didn't have a long.
Oh, I have a write-in question here then. Did you practice the 96 exit save, also known as no special world save?
Yeah. I had the everything complete special world save. I had the 96 no special world save to not tarnish the way everything looked. And then I had the third save, which I think is all you could have, was the start from scratch and delete it every time.
I didn't have, because I had brothers and sisters, so...
Yeah. So you had to complete.
My sister, we just did our order, so my sister was always A, and I always had B.
Did you have to save as a 2-player file, or it just adapted if you started one with already existing? It would give the other guy like 5 lives when you had like 100, probably.
I think it adapted, but I don't remember for sure. We all three had our own saves. My sister like never played, so like we could have like used her file if we wanted to, but game from that generation that you played as an adult that did not hold up, and one that did hold up.
I'm actually a moron. I just said Super Mario World probably still got the most playtime, but I totally skipped over Toe Jam and Earl, which is like if I had to put a game on a top 5 list of all time, that's on there for me. And that did hold up to me. That's one that you would think probably wouldn't hold up, or if somebody didn't know the game, I would say. But that one answers the nostalgia issue, where I still feel great. It wasn't just a nostalgia thing. And they actually just released the new one this year, so it's still a good game style, too.
And then one that did not hold up.
Oh, one that did not hold up. Gosh. I guess it's just one that I played. I had the Home Alone game for Super Nintendo, and that does not hold up real well.
I'll give my answer to this question because it actually was a mutual experience, which is why I maybe thought it would be. But we went to Funko Land once when we were in high school and got some games. And I remember we got Golden Axe, and we were pumped. We were like, Golden Axe, this game is sick. We beat that game in maybe like 40 minutes, and it was bad. Like, it was...
I bought it too, right?
What?
I actually bought it. You had to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The levels were like, maybe like 3 or 4 screens long, like left to right. And they were all like super easy, and yeah, that game was... My memory of that game compared to when we played it together was so like night and day.
And to piggyback onto that a little bit, this is an unfair comparison a little bit, but that's because that's an arcade game that became a console game. And this is going to sound like blasphemy, but the X-Men arcade game is one that I don't think would hold up if it was ever a console game for the same reason. The quarter feed games, outside of Ninja Turtles, because those were totally different when they came over to console. The quarter feed games, that was the goal, is to use your lives and you would just get through it. But there wasn't really any strategy. You were going to die. most of those didn't come over to console well, and Golden Axe was kind of one of those. X-Men also, I think, is a nostalgia thing where it's like you beat it pretty quickly, but I play it once a year or once every couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Gosh, I should have said Ninja. Well, that wasn't NES, so that's fine.
Most played pre-internet multiplayer game.
So, let's think. Xbox was internet. PlayStation was not internet. Xbox was half and half internet.
I think there's a console here that really
My
sticks out
problem-
above
yeah.
the rest.
Well, I'm just that's the problem is I'm bad at recalling large amounts of information at once. I think I know what you're thinking. I'll think. GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Yeah, on N64 has to be the number one. I'll say one for each system, except for I don't think I have one for Sega Genesis unless you count Altered Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Super Nintendo's Turtles in Time, actually.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
a good
game I should have said when I was talking about Super Mario World. I played that as much, if not more. N64, GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, basically the same game. One's a sequel, totally different IP, but
I think Perfect Dark was a little more feature complete.
yeah, GoldenEye was because of the timeline. High school.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, he's got GoldenEye. Everybody would play GoldenEye. But like, I don't think you and I played GoldenEye very often because Perfect Dark was coming out by that point.
Yeah, I think actually when I think about playing multiplayer GoldenEye, it's mostly with other people, other friends of mine.
I think it's got to be that series is most played, with a honorable mention to Star Fox 64 multiplayer.
Best settings in GoldenEye.
Oh, I don't know if I remember. No Odd Job. That's all I know.
Okay.
So, well, for me, settings were I really liked. I think just standard. I liked one. What was License to Kill? What was One Hit Kill?
That's License to Kill.
And then the Golden Gun one I liked. But this was before internet, so like I was always the best among my friends at that time because I knew the maps. So like I knew where the Golden Gun was, stuff like that.
Okay. Oh.
What was before you asked that one because you didn't? I'll make up a question that I'll try to ask you. Best level, but I can't remember the name of it. Was it the Facility? The one that was
Facility is really good. When I used to play, because I very specifically remember who I used to play that game the most with. But we used to play Stack on Magnums. That was our mode, was Stack on Magnums. Stack was like 2 levels combined. It was library and something else.
Yeah, that one was a very.
And so we just picked Stack because it was the biggest.
That's why I liked Facility because it was very big as well, but it was tricky. Like I
think it's cool because it has like a variety of rooms.
Yeah.
But the reason why I didn't like Facility was because if you go down the hallway like as if you're beating the level, you're stuck down there. You have to like fight your way out of that hallway.
That's true. That was a good. What was the level that had like an underground cave type area? Was that Facility also? Did that go into a cave?
Yeah, the above ground area was library, and the below ground area was.
That was the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Stack is literally 2 levels combined.
No, those are my top 2 for sure.
Okay, my next question, I don't like it, so I'm gonna skip it.
I do not like it.
So we're gonna talk about mains. Are you big on mains, or are you not big on mains in games, like maining a character or maining?
Yeah, I'm probably too big on it, where I'm probably annoying to others. Meaning, like I take it too seriously. Or I think it's too. I like it a lot, so then when other people aren't big on it, I'm like, "What's wrong with you?" But not really. I can understand they have a different opinion, but like, so if there's 4 classes and you can have doubles of the same class, if it's a game that has like a melee, like Golden Axe, for example, if 2 people could be the dwarf guy, that would bother me. I would give up being the dwarf to be another main, so you can see diversity between all the different roles. Okay. It's a bad example because you can't, but yeah, I'm definitely very big on it. I'm loyal, I guess, to that.
All right, I'm gonna set some restrictions for this next one. This next section is called Main and Why. I have a lot of games to list, so just say the main and give me like a 1-sentence why. Warcraft.
Hunter. My first real big main thing, so I didn't. Well, my sense will be there was no point in making an alt in Classic WoW, so
Yeah.
you had to be loyal or you're wasting a lot of time.
Okay.
And it hit right with me.
Mortal Kombat 9.
Reptile. I like the aesthetics of the character and stuck with him no matter what because of that.
Street Fighter 5.
Street Fighter 5, 5, okay. Mika, because I like wrestlers or grappler. Is that or Mika, whatever.
Mortal Kombat 10.
Reptile again, for basically the same reason, although he was threatened by Predator.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, like Triborg.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Injustice.
Injustice is usually a Robin or Nightwing type character. So Injustice 1, is that what that is? Okay. Nightwing for sure.
Injustice 2 is the next one. So Injustice 2.
Injustice 2. Why am I forgetting? So Nightwing was gone. I don't think I would say Robin. Probably Scarecrow. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Red Hood.
Red Hood was the closest to Robin.
Yeah. Red Hood was my
Mortal Kombat 11.
Mortal Kombat 11 is Shang Tsung. Kind of because he can turn into Reptile now.
League of Legends.
Draven, hands down. I like to say that I was the OG Draven, even though I'm not a pro. I played him when nobody said he was good, and then all of a sudden he was good.
Marvel Heroes.
I never got to be Archangel, so this is actually hard for me. It's gotta be Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler because, my sentence for him is he played amazing. He jumped all over the screen just like a teleporter should. You won't see that on a non-mouse and keyboard game, I don't think.
Smash Brothers.
Simon Belmont. It can be any Smash Brothers character of all time.
Yeah, any of them.
Yeah, Simon Belmont. I love Castlevania. Same kind of thing. So I guess most of my mains come from if I like the franchise or the lore behind them.
Okay. Something that all of your mains have in common.
All of those characters. I would say... With Draven's, I would say it's damage. But it's mid-range, I guess, since there's different games. Reptile is a good mid-range character, and Rushdown, good damage.
You can pick out whichever ones you want for this one.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to do all of them. One buff for each main.
I don't have to go through all of these.
No, just ones that there's something that you've always wanted on each one.
Draven original passive. Even though I think his new one's okay. Hunter, it would have been the dead zone going away, so I don't think I need to give them one. I like Hunter a lot. Reptile being in Mortal Kombat 11. Other than that, he doesn't need a buff. I won't do Street Fighter. I don't think I'll do Injustice. So I think that... And Simon Belmont, I think, was perfect. Simon Belmont is the one unique one where he's like super zone heavy.
Yeah. Where
he doesn't fit the rest of my mains, but I think that was perfect. And then my Marvel Heroes buff is that Archangel would have been playable.
Alright. By this question, I don't mean, it doesn't mean it's better than another one. Just for you, what holds that place in your heart as your favorite console of all time?
It's weird because the graphics, I think it's probably N64.
Okay.
I say that as having pretty much owned every console ever existed. Dreamcast is actually up there as a weird choice.
A lot of people feel that way about Dreamcast.
It was a really good console that didn't have a big library because it died.
I think it just came out at a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it did it specifically. I mean, it literally did not come out at a good time because that's why they went out of business.
Yeah.
But it came out at a time when, games were, improving in a lot of ways. What's a memory that you have of playing the N64?
I don't want to go back to GoldenEye, so I will say... What? I'm trying to not mix it up with the GameCube, because sometimes I do that. Let's see, I had Mario 64, I had GoldenEye. I feel like I'm missing a big... probably Mario Kart. Mario Kart 64 for sure.
Okay.
Playing
If
that
someone
with
got
it.
an N64 today, what are some games that you would recommend they pick up
There
for
you
it?
go. That's easier. Maybe I should have thought of it. So, Mario 64, Super Mario 64. I don't know if I recommend GoldenEye because it would be weird now, depending on how the rule would be for that. Mario Kart 64 for sure. That'd be my number one recommendation, honestly. I think that's, if not the best, one of the best Mario Karts. I feel like my knowledge of. Oh my gosh, I'm stupid. WWE No Mercy is the best wrestling game ever made. Um, those are what I was trying to think of. What I played a lot on the N64. So WCW World Tour, I probably wouldn't recommend because that's the first. But WCW Revenge, WWF, WrestleMania 2000, and No Mercy.
Okay.
Those are actually the most multiplayer I played probably of all time.
If tomorrow Nintendo would announce any one remake from that console coming out for the Switch next year, and not like an upscaled 1080p, like a remaster, like Resident Evil 2 remaster.
Okay.
What one game from N64 would you choose?
I don't think I would say the easy one would be WWF, but I don't think remaster is the problem with those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that gameplay style just can't exist anymore. The slow grapple thing. Probably Perfect Dark, even though we kind of got a sequel to that and didn't pan out real well.
Yeah.
So
Felt like a different game.
done
kinda.
right. Yeah, Perfect Dark done right. I think would be it.
Okay. All right, so you can pick any number that you want to go over here, but there's like 4 or 5 follow-up questions, so don't go too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But what are your favorite game series of all time?
Castlevania. Marvel is hard, so I guess I would just say Marvel games.
Okay.
Or I mean, that's not really a series right now, so that's hard. The Ultimate Alliance series. That's
Okay.
fair. Okay. Mario, Zelda. I don't want to count online games, so I don't. Did I say Resident Evil? Resident Evil for sure. If I didn't say that yet.
I forgot the first one that you said. So far we have Resident Evil, Mario, Zelda, and Ultimate Alliance.
No, I can't remember the first one I said.
Yeah.
That's fine. Wrestling kind of as a series, but that doesn't age well with me anymore.
Mhm.
And Toe Jam and Earl, honestly, I like every game in the series, so that should count.
Okay.
It's not super popular. That's pretty good. I don't know if I might remember one later and bring it up.
What is the best game of each of those series?
Oh, Castlevania was the first one I said. So Castlevania is not Symphony of the Night for me. It might be the reboot. It's a toss-up between the reboot for me, Lords of Shadow, or Circle of the Moon, the Game Boy Advance one.
Okay, I have a write-in question here. If Bloodstain counted,
Bloodstain probably would take the spot of. I actually would be between the Game Boy one and Bloodstain then. As weird as that is,
Okay.
that would kick Lords of Shadow off.
worst. Oh wait, we didn't finish that one.
Oh yeah.
So then Castlevania. Now we
so-
have Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
That's easy. Right now it's Ultimate Alliance. Well, if you count X-Men Legends for their time, the X-Men Legend games are the best. But if we count the actual overall best performing game, it's Ultimate Alliance 3, honestly.
Then Zelda.
Zelda. To save time, I actually am just going to say Breath of the Wild over Ocarina.
Mario.
For me, it's 3, followed by World. So 3.
And then Resident Evil.
Oh, that one's easier now. It's if you count the remake of 2, it's remake of 2.
Yeah, console.
For sure.
All right. What is your least favorite Castlevania game?
Should we say that I've played?
Yeah.
Would that be because I'm sure there's some I wouldn't like that I haven't played. Actually, it's the original one. it's a bad game by today's standards. So yeah, it's not Symphony of the Night. I don't love as much as everybody does, but it's a good game. So it's the first one for sure.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
That one is pretty easy. Even counting X-Men Legends, it's Ultimate Alliance 2 is my least favorite.
Mario Brothers.
That one's hard because I don't dislike any of those. I guess Sunshine from what I've played. I haven't played the Galaxies, so and I'm not saying they were bad, but I'm just Sunshine probably.
Zelda.
So this is going to be between Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword. So it's going to be Skyward Sword.
Okay.
For the controls.
We got Castlevania. Oh, Resident Evil.
Oh yeah, that's easy. Resident Evil 5.
Okay.
Thanks, Pop.
Which of your favorite series is? If they would announce that there's a new one coming out next year, which one would you choose? The next one is coming out.
It's almost not fair to include Ultimate Alliance, so I actually would pick Castlevania because I feel like that's the only one that doesn't have a future.
It's probably
right
the
now.
least likely. Yeah.
Everything else has a future or already has something coming out, like Zelda.
What is one change to one version of these? This is kind of like the buff question. You can choose whichever of those series you want, but you can make one change to one version that you think would make it infinitely better.
Of of any series, or
yeah. So like if they changed the way the whip works in Castlevania 2, it would be way better. One game from each series, one thing you could change that would make it way better. You can do as many or as few as you want.
So with Ultimate Alliance 3, this is easy because I know I didn't really pick a best, or did I say that was the best of that? Right?
Well, yes and no.
Not counting X-Men Legends because it's too far gone.
How good it was when it came out,
Yeah.
X-Men Legends was better, but
Ultimate Alliance 3 is better because this would make more sense changing something in the reset. It would just make energy regen faster and not cost double when you synergize with a teammate. Castlevania between Lords of Shadow and Lords of Shadow. Actually, I'm gonna go off of Bloodstained for this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip that one. I don't know if I have a good one for that because Lords of Shadow, I don't think I would change anything.
Okay.
Circle of the Moon, I haven't played recently enough, and Bloodstained is pretty darn good. Bloodstained would be this is easy. That has New Game Plus, but New Game Plus was not a challenge anymore. You're too strong by that point.
Yeah.
So it would be a higher difficulty.
Okay.
What do we got? Zelda.
Again, you don't have to do one for
No, I know. Zelda's a pretty darn perfect game. I like the weapon durability, so I don't think I have anything there. Resident Evil, same. I wouldn't change anything from 2. I think that game was.
Well, it doesn't have to be specific. It can be any.
Not just the best one.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's fine. I would. Well, Skyward Sword then for Zelda, I would have changed the controls completely, and that would be an awesome game.
Okay. Game or games that you have never played, but have always been like, I should really play that sometime.
One series that, at the time, I don't think I would have said this, but now definitely is probably Final Fantasy. And it's not too late, but I just don't know if I ever will.
Yeah.
But maybe with the remaster of 7, but it's not exactly my style as far as anime or art, you know what I mean? But it's my it's become my style of game. I like that game style a lot.
Yeah. I think the
and
problem...
I've literally played nothing.
Yeah. I think the problem is, like, if you're basing it off of, like, Octopath and stuff like that, they're kind of headed away from that direction with the main line.
Yeah, I just mean like a game like Octopath.
And unfortunately, and a lot of people are gonna be either mad or disagree with this statement. The PlayStation 1 games did not age very well, in a specific sense that first generation 3D is rough.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was saying about 64. Is like the polygonal stuff.
They aged well, like the Final Fantasy remaster, now they clean up the character models so they don't look like
Yeah.
absolute crap. Looks, the story's aged well and stuff like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the CGI movies are fine. It's just that PlayStation 1 polygons can be hard to sit through, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, if you feel that way,
I think Final Fantasy, because I
Let's try
want
Final
a
Fantasy
turn-based
VII.
game that's that style, not that with good graphics. That's fine. It can be old school retro graphics, or it can be very polished new graphics. So it'd be Final Fantasy. It would probably be Borderlands, because I've never played any of those either, and that's weird with how many looter shooter type games I've played. And then I had a third one, but I think I forgot, so that's fine.
okay. Well, Final Fantasy VII Remake might be right up your alley then.
My third one would have been. It's not. It would have been the Souls games if I didn't get big into Sekiro.
Actually, not to keep going on this topic, but another nice thing about Final Fantasy is none of the stories are related, so you can really
that
just
is good.
play any one of them. Genre you feel like that you should like based on your normal things that you're into, but every time you try it, you just don't really, you're not feeling it.
Actually, for me, it's more of one that I used to like. I don't think I like shooters anymore. I think that's my biggest one that I've gotten pretty negative on, and I don't know if it's just I did too much of them. But first-person shooters, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Third-person, I actually like a lot.
What is your current favorite genre?
Probably action RPGs, or well, single player would be. I don't even know how to. Is that called adventure? Like, what's a game like Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or?
Personally, I consider Zelda to be an adventure game.
Yeah, so probably that.
I feel like the RPG word
Yeah, it's not an RPG.
has become I just mean I feel like it's so watered down now. It's like the whole describe your game. Well, it's an open world Metroidvania with Souls mechanics.
Yeah.
Where it's like they just say a little bit of everything. RPG has become a little bit superfluous in that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it would be adventure. It'd be because if adventure classifies as single player, fair amount of cutscenes, good story driven game, that's longer.
So
than,
if I adventure for me, it would be like Zelda, Assassin's Creed,
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah, the
Okay.
Lords of Shadow Castlevanias.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that genre is getting better or getting worse?
I think it's getting better. Oh, I would count like Spider-Man PS4 and that too, then, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's all improving across the board. Usually.
What are good changes to that genre, and what are bad changes to that genre since you first started playing it? What are some things that you think have gotten way better, and what are some things that you think that they've changed for the worse?
I would say controls have gotten way better, and like camera is included in that. I think something that got worse and then is getting better, so it's gone back and forth, is everything became set. After GTA 3, everything all of a sudden started turning into open world, sandbox, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like, it was just you could see it in every game. It was the GTA version of, for example, the other Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
Or stuff. I think they backed off on that pretty well, where it's still open world, but it doesn't feel like it's just their open world.
Okay.
But GTA again.
What is your favorite game from a design perspective? Like, when you think about, man, that game I really like the way it was made.
I think it's because it's that genre. I think if you count the Batman,
It could be any genre.
Since that's my
topic.
favorite genre, I think it's the Batman, Arkham, or Spider-Man games. They're not the same people that made them, but for me, it's like putting on a show. So like fighting 10 villains at once, like thugs, and doing some really cool Batman looking or Spider-Man looking stuff by combining a bunch of different moves. That's it.
Okay. What's your favorite game from a music perspective? So it could be just what's your favorite soundtrack, but it also could be like
of all time,
sound effects, stuff like that you just really like about it.
Of all time, or like
just whichever ones you want to bring up.
Okay. Well, Zelda would be up there for music usually, so Breath of the Wild. the Grand Theft Auto games always have good music, but that's cheating to me because of the radio stations that they're using.
Sure.
They're a person that pulls the soundtrack.
Well, that's a good example of where you're choosing it for sound design
Yeah,
rather than for the soundtrack.
yeah,
Because the idea of doing radio stations is cool.
yeah. And the songs they choose that fit into the story are cool usually.
Mm-hmm.
Octopath, just all around good music, both soundtrack and design.
Mm-hmm.
And you said music, so I wouldn't think sound effects. So that's something.
Well, no, it's just sound in general.
Oh, okay.
So you could do sound.
Spider-Man was a lot of the new stuff. Red Dead Redemption, Spider-Man. Real
Okay.
good timing on music.
What are some of your favorite games from an art style perspective?
So I don't like cell shading. So for me, well, you're not just talking about graphics. You're just
You just like the way it looks.
Yeah. I really like Ultimate Alliance 3, actually. I think that those games used to basically be cell shaded, I think, X-Men
Mhm.
Legends, right?
I mean, yeah. The answer is definitely yes, but like, because it's a Xbox One game, it.
No, I'm just saying they went from cell shaded and then 360 when they became Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I actually did not like that change
Mhm.
for 1 and 2, even though they were different. And then I think 3 is going back to a better direction. I like that style. It looks kind of like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Visual, the Rockstar games are unbelievable, so those are always up there. I don't even need to identify one. With everything 4K now, it's hard because I think that it's not art. That's art quality, but everything just looks so good now. Yeah, I think that.
Okay. What is one game that everyone hates that you wish they loved?
Hate is a strong word. Because I would say like I wish everybody tried Toe Jam and Earl, but I don't think people hate it necessarily. That would be one that I wish everybody would try, the new Toe Jam and Earl. I think more people dislike Ultimate Alliance 3 than I would like, so that would be a good. I don't think everyone hates it, but that would be one that I wish more people loved because I think it is very good.
Mhm.
I think that's it.
Okay. Online era multiplayer. What is your most played game?
Online era. Gosh, if I don't have the technology or brain power to think back to Halo 2, but because Halo 2 would be up there,
Mhm.
Halo 3 would be up there, Gears of War 3 would be up there. Well, we're not. Are we talking about like MMOs? If
That
MMO
would count
counts.
as well.
Okay, well then that's no contest. It's WoW.
Okay.
So yeah, if a MMO is in there for sure.
What are some of your
second is Marvel Heroes.
What are some of your favorite memories of online era multiplayer?
MMOs. My favorite thing about them is that everybody made their own character and got to where they are, possibly on their own or a different way, and meeting up with them, and really how you have to. I like the Trinity, like tank, healer,
Mm-hmm.
DPS, or I just like that stuff in general where you have to work together. You're not. I like the idea of no soloing, where like Halo is, for example, you can carry the whole team if you're really good.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you have to count on others to be able to achieve things. City of Heroes was actually my first experience with that, so. And I played a terrible class that was by yourself, so maybe that's why I feel that way.
Okay. What is one good change to online multiplayer games since you started playing, and one bad change to online multiplayer games since you started playing?
Well, if it's WoW or RPG, MMORPG, it's I'm trying to think of the delicate way of saying this. It's really what they did. It's taking away customization and like talent trees. Homogenization is best word maybe to use there.
Sure.
So a good change to that same. The time commitment has kind of gone down. I would say. You could spend as much time as you ever did in vanilla WoW, but that was all required. Where now it's like you can get to goals much faster.
Mm-hmm.
Guess I would say so. That's good.
Okay. If you could design, well, this one will be, these next two are, I guess, specific for WoW because they don't make sense otherwise. If you could design the next expansion, what would you want?
Oh, I can make it short and sweet. I would not have it be war anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I would have it be dragon threat related. I don't know if they have any options left there, but I don't think Cataclysm was done well, so I feel like they wasted their chance, or for me, it wasted their chance to see the biggest, baddest dragon be the last boss.
What would you want for the next? If you could choose, like, what type of class they should add, what kind of class would you add, and what could it do?
What would it do? They have so many. I don't know if I have an answer for that one. It would be another. Even though I'm biased, it would be another, like a, what are they, Shadow Hunter or whatever they call Dark Ranger, maybe. I don't know what it would necessarily could do, so that's all I could say. Is what I would like to see is a well designed, mostly physical, ranged DPS class. Hunter really is still the only unique one there, and I would like to maybe see a cross between a hunter and a mage or more.
Okay. We're moving on from that topic.
Okay.
Most annoying lie that game developers, like, what lie that game developers tell annoys you the most?
The Towers of Time are fun, stuff like that, maybe. I mean, that is one, saying that in Mortal Kombat 11, when you put, not just the Towers of Time, that mode is not bad, but in Towers of Time, for people that don't know, you're playing against AI in a full tower, so 6 to 8 enemies or matches, and they have a special modifier, and I don't find those fun at all. Fighting games are fun versus another human for the most part, so when you're kind of forced to play that mode, the reason to play that mode is to unlock things. I just want to beat up on a test dummy, basically, and instead you're fighting things like off-screen missiles will knock you out of a combo when it's messing up your practice opportunity, basically.
With regards to, these next questions are, I guess, kind of like with regards to game reviews or other, like, podcasts about games and stuff like that. What is the most overblown, quote-unquote, problem that critics have? So what's something that a lot of games get criticized for that doesn't really bother you that much?
Really length of the game. I think that's probably the most common, whether it's too long or too short. I usually don't have a problem with that. It can be a rare exception where a game is too short for me.
Okay.
Or too long.
Man, it's hard. I feel like I want to elaborate on most of these, but...
Yeah, I know. I'm trying. I've already probably taken too much time.
No. I just mean, because, you have your own questions later.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Most overlooked positive that reviews do not get enough credit for. So, like, what is something that you think that when games do it well, reviewers don't notice it, or they don't bring it up enough?
Well, it's funny because I keep thinking of the opposites. Like, graphics is one that I think they get hurt too much on. I'm trying to think of what is one that's hidden that... I don't know. Is fun factor a score? Like, for me, I think fun fact, like, are you having fun, or are you true to whatever you're supposed to be? So, like, if you're playing a game where you're an assassin, does it feel like you're playing an assassin? I don't feel like the average reviewer doesn't have my opinion, obviously, or necessarily everybody, so they don't really get what I find fun about it.
Okay. What in a game, so if you were reviewing a game, what could what single thing could happen that would most negatively affect your review score?
If it's a game, let's make up a game or look at like Batman Arkham games or any game like that where there's a fighting style. How quickly I feel like I'm getting repetitive and out of options to do different things kills it for me. So, trying to think of an example that does that badly. Even the old Ultimate Alliance games, like there was a special combo you could do in X-Men Legends with different button presses in a row. And I think in Ultimate Alliance 2, that changed into just AAA or XXX in a row. And that's it. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, just lack of options for fighting or combat diversity.
Okay. Last question is thoughts on reviews in general. Like, do you use reviews to help you purchase games? Do you think that like they're overly accurate, or do you think they're not, or like what do you take from them, or if something, or if nothing at all?
I think this is more of a estimated guess, but I would, for stats, I think that 9 times out of 10, for example, I probably completely disagree with most of a review. Even if they give it a good score, I give it a good score for different reasons often.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I know that what I use reviews for personally, I look at them all the time, which is weird because I would argue that I don't like reviews most of the time, especially like peer-to-peer reviews, stuff like that. I think that I use them for a census kind of a thing.
Yeah.
To see, what the buzz is on a certain game. If it's a game, like, if Resident Evil 3 Remake happens, I'm not going to use a review site. I know it's going to be good, but I can find out if it's going to be good. Even if it flops. Maybe a good example right now would be WWE 2K20.
Yeah.
That game, there's a lot of jokes going around about it, and you can see, I haven't looked at a single review, if one even exists yet, and I won't, because I already know, unfortunately, I'm not going to get it where I would have really wanted to get it, because I can tell there's some huge issues with that game. So overall, I don't really find them super useful, but I've made my own use for them. That's reliable enough, I guess that would say.
Okay. That's all of my questions.
Okay. Well, we should reverse it right pretty much around, unless you have any objection, because save for time. So you started with, if we back way up, did you skip you skipped something at the beginning, but
I skipped, basically like when your previous answer just made the next question make no sense.
Okay. So, what is your earliest memory of gaming?
So when I originally wrote this question, I had an answer in mind, which is playing Mario Brothers 1 over at one of my... Basically, when I was a kid, up until like 6th grade, we would go to a daycare after school because both my parents would work till 5. And also, the bus situation was not good for getting back to our house. So we would stay at a daycare from after school until my parents got home from work. And so my memory was having to take turns with like 10 other kids on Mario 1 at one of my daycares. But I will say that when you brought up the Intellivision, it turns out that a babysitter they had before that, like my first babysitter I ever had Intellivision, and I do remember playing that there, but not much more than the fact that she had it.
Did you have, this is kind of an add-on question because I didn't think about this earlier, did you have a computer? Because I know, at least for me, I feel like I skipped until like WoW basically, but computers were relevant for me the whole time, like since I was 3. Did you have a computer to play?
Actually, we did have a computer. In fact, we did not get a NES until later in the generation, and that'll be a reoccurring theme for me until I was an adult, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have an Apple IIc, and so we played. There was a Ghostbusters game on there.
I probably had that.
And there was also like a...
or I may be thinking of Atari.
Pitfall we had, but I hated Pitfall, so I didn't play it very much. And then there was like a World Games. Actually, there was like this Olympic Games game that we had, and we had this one babysitter this one time that convinced me and my brother that the Spain national anthem was a banger. And so we would always crank the computer up to full volume whenever we played that game and select Spain and just like pound onto the desk to the rhythm of the song.
That's funny. So
the Spain national anthem is actually an old, probably one of my first favorite songs of my entire life.
All right, So, for you, did you have a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo, or if you had both? Which was
We had a Super Nintendo, although I want to add that we did not have a Super Nintendo until we were on regular Nintendo when most people were on Super Nintendo until about halfway through the Super Nintendo's lifetime, and then we had a Super Nintendo until about halfway through the N64 lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had an N64.
Did you? You said something about waiting to take your turn to play things. Did you do the thing where, like, I remember going to Target to play Super Mario World? I think even before
Yes.
Nintendo was out,
Or FAO Schwartz at the Mall
Yeah.
of America.
and stand there and hope nobody else was around so you could take more time.
Yeah, we used to do that.
What was your most played game from that generation?
Probably Final Fantasy VI. It might be Super Mario World. But we had actually in Final Fantasy VI, or it's called Final Fantasy III, the actual Super Nintendo version in the United States, but it's really the American release of 6. We had a save of that where literally every single character in the game was at level 99, and that takes a long time to do because that game has a lot of characters and
Mm-hmm.
the level
Yeah.
cap is not meant to be gotten to.
Yeah.
And so and that's obviously not the only save we ever played, so just that save alone though is probably close to qualifying for that.
I don't remember if I answered this one, but I want to ask you: is there a game that you couldn't beat as a kid?
Yeah. Did I forget to ask you that? It's
That's
Zelda
fine.
2 is the answer.
I had a bunch of them.
Zelda 2 was I played it a lot, and we could beat everything except for the last castle. And if you've never played Zelda 2 before, the last castle forces you well, how do I put this? If you've never played Zelda 2 before, there's an overworld mechanic where if you're on the road, you do not run into monsters. But the second you go off the road,
Yeah.
you can have random you can sort of dodge them but not really encounters with monsters. And for the final castle, they make you go a super long way off the road where you're going to get in at least 6 or 7 battles. And so the problem would be that you'd be so low on resources by the time you even got to the final castle, and then the final castle was not easy on top of that. So for that reason, we could not beat it. However, I did beat it on the Switch NES console thing.
Okay, that's what.
But even then, I used a solution that I found out because I was watching a speedrun of Zelda 2 once. Because I was like, well, I've never seen the end of the game, so I'll watch the speedrun because it's only a half an hour anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the final castle, after going through all the bullshit that I was talking about, there's a statue near the front where if you hit it, it drops a full magic container.
Okay.
And in that game, you had a spell that would heal you, but it would take half your magic.
Okay.
So what the guy would do in the speedrun is he comes in, gets the container, heals himself to full, leaves and comes back and gets a new container so he has full life and full magic to start the final castle. And I just had
Yeah,
so I
you.
copied that same thing.
Sure. Okay. Did you also have a game that you played as an adult that didn't hold up from back then?
It's probably the Golden Axe story would be the main
Yeah.
one. I don't know if there's another good answer because Final Fantasy games actually hold up super well. Both 4 and 6.
Yeah, I think holding up is, if you define that way, that makes sense. It'd be one thing if it's if you weighted on today's scale, it might not hold up, but
Well, to be completely honest, the thing about it is,
they're mostly just faster now.
yeah, that's true. Sprite-based games have an art to them that I can appreciate that early generation 3D games don't. So,
Yeah.
as much as I like Final Fantasy VIII, the actual PlayStation 1 version looks terrible. Whereas Final Fantasy VI still looks the same to me.
Alright. So then, what was your most played pre-internet multiplayer game?
Perfect Dark.
Okay.
Or maybe... No, it's definitely Perfect Dark. Played a lot of Mario Party as well. But Perfect Dark was number one for sure.
That's up there for game of all time, I gotta say. Did you have a biggest rival?
Uh, Not really. I mean, I guess yeah. Well, I would say not in Perfect Dark because Perfect Dark allowed for bots, so we
Yeah.
would mostly play like me and my friends, or well, because I played most of that game with you. Well, we would do the challenge modes, which I really liked.
Yeah.
That
That
like,
was
my
what
favorite
made
memory of
that
that game was
Yeah.
us trying to beat all the challenge modes. But also when we do multiplayer, we usually play against the computer and put all of us
Yeah.
on the same team.
That's when I answered this question for you. That's maybe the mistake that I made. I answered it thinking competitive only,
Yeah.
which is okay. That's just a different answer. But cooperative, definitely Perfect Dark. I played it with you. So.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer for the longest like best of series with stuff like that, or is that more of a competitive thing outside of our like NBC2 things?
Oh, actually, I want to say two things. Going back to the last question, Secret of Mana 1, played through that whole game with my... Well, there is no 2 in America. Secret of Mana,
Yeah.
which is actually Secret of Mana 2 if you're going to be technical. But anyway, point is, I played that all the way through with my brother, and it's like, back then it was one of the only role-playing games that was actually multiplayer in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just passing back and forth the controller. You were actually playing at the same time. So that is probably one of my favorite all-time multiplayer games for PvE and on the same console. But going to the new question, which was
Longest best of or
longest best of.
even it could, I guess if it doesn't fit best of, it could be longest.
Yeah, well, when I wrote this question, I was thinking about two major memories. One being one time at a friend's house, we played Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
battle mode, to like best of 50. It took like literally all
I used
day.
to play that a lot.
But
actually.
we played to like a best of 50 on that. It was like crazy. I remember looking at the screen and being like, we've played 100 games. But then of
Yeah.
course the other one, the most memorable one of all time, is the Soul Calibur
Yeah.
first to 200,
Yeah.
where we had a guest
Yeah.
that we were playing with, and we were playing Soul Calibur, and he was down like 50 games, and he literally said out loud, and when he first said it, I don't know if either of us took him seriously, that he wasn't gonna leave until he caught up.
So then
And-
it became the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, eventually it got to the point where we realized he was serious, and we had to let him in a little
Yeah.
bit. But by that point, the lead was so far that it ended up being like 200 games or
Yeah.
something stupid.
That was a long night. I'm tired remembering it. All right, so main question: do you believe in mains?
No, I think this is somewhere where we differ a lot. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean no in that I don't believe in it, but like, this is somewhere where we are very different. Because I'm definitely like, I just like playing what's good. So I'm not really loyal to characters at all. I just like playing whatever is like best at the time.
That's a good point because I didn't say that obviously, but because of that, I almost am the reverse. If a main I have becomes good, I almost hate it because
I have that a
everybody will
little bit
start
too.
playing it.
I have a little bit that too, and it's weird because they don't make any sense together. But I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so the same question again for all the different games. Main and why, or who was your main and why, I should say. Some of these you may not have played the same one, but you can add a game if you want. So, WoW. And a sentence to follow up.
Probably Warrior, but I've played every class in this game. I try to maintain as many of the classes, if not all of them, at the level cap at all times. Although that's been in BC it was like 3, and then in Wrath it was like 5, and now this is probably this is like the first expansion where I've literally had every single class at the level cap. Well, I'm almost there.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that I haven't had before, I do have at the level cap. So I have had every single class at the level cap at one time. And So
Okay.
I don't remember the question.
Well, just what was your main?
Probably Warrior would be the one
And
that
then
I
if you have a
have
sentence
most
to go.
traditionally enjoyed and liked.
Okay. Mortal Kombat 9.
Mortal
I know
Kombat.
you got that later, right? Technically.
Yeah, I played Katana mostly in that
Yeah.
game.
Street Fighter 5.
Street Fighter Five. Oh, I played Karen because she had the Shantoto laugh, which is a Final Fantasy 11 reference. Although I think it's like it must be some sort of like running. It must be some sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's in multiple games.
Mortal Kombat X.
I don't remember. I don't know if I played that game.
You didn't play it a lot, but you would have played that one. You didn't own, I don't think. So you would have played me. That's another one. Of all the fighting games that have come out, I play it online competitively the least.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who you played versus
I
me.
think I played
thought.
some Melina in that
Yeah.
game.
Okay. Injustice 1. Oh, sorry.
I generally just like to play like the faster characters, like which in Japanese games is almost always the women.
Yeah.
So like that, or like in stuff like Taki and Soul Calibur and stuff like that.
So Injustice 2 might even be.
I don't think I
Injustice
played.
1 and 2. Did you have?
I don't think I
You
played
could
either of those
combine-
games.
Yeah, I didn't think that you did. Mortal Kombat 11.
Mortal Kombat 11 is Johnny Cage.
Okay.
I picked
Yeah.
him mostly just because I like the way he is designed in this game. Like I like the voice acting, and I like his look.
Mhm.
Like the way they made an older Johnny Cage
Mhm.
is the way I like the way he looks. And I think that's the way he would look.
Okay. League of Legends.
I mean, I would probably say Fizz, but it's been a long time since I've liked that character, like 2 or 3 years now. There was like a patch where they like redid. It was called the Assassin Rework patch, where they just changed the way assassins work, kind of. And I've played him still since then sometimes when he's good, but that was like when it stopped, where it was like I would play him whenever, and now after that patch, I only play him when he's good
Yeah.
because I just don't like him that
That's
much anymore.
what you said at the beginning is what you differ from me currently, because I will play stuff just for loyalty, and you did play him.
I
that
liked
back
him
then.
enough that I would just play him a lot regardless before, but after that change, after that rework, I only play him when he's really good,
Yeah.
or when the matchup is just like someone picks something. If I'm the second pick and the other pick is terrible in the Fizz, that's when I'll do it. Or the other team comp has no way of dealing with him. But I would say right now, it would be probably Irelia. I really, really, really like playing the new Irelia.
Okay. Marvel Heroes.
Marvel Heroes, definitely would be Psylocke. That's the character I played the most. There was a lot of characters that were
Yeah.
fun to play in that game, but Psylocke was just... It's a really cool design of her in that game. Yeah.
All right. And then Super Smash Brothers.
You know, when I first got Ultimate, my favorite character after experimenting with like a list of like 5 characters I wanted to try was Lucina, because I felt like she was just like, well, she is very well rounded. She's not like incredibly strong, but she's definitely on the stronger side, and like there's not like a glaring weakness that she has.
Mm-hmm.
But after playing online some, and this is gonna be, it's a little bit of like the Scorpion Online and Mortal Kombat 11 thing where people are annoyed with people that are like this.
Yeah.
But I realized that playing heavies online is actually hilariously fun because it's just very trolly.
Yeah.
So DDD is right now my favorite character to play online because it's just really trolly.
Okay. I have one extra side one for. I'm trying to combine everything, but Mario Kart, Mario Party, kind of as a combination. That's more of an avatar thing, so I don't.
Yeah, the characters don't really have strengths and weaknesses in those games, but I generally pick Mario.
Okay. That's right. Like Mario Kart, they kind of do, but it's a class.
For me, it was like everyone kind of avoids picking Mario because it's like the lame choice, and so one time I was just like, no one ever picks Mario, and so I just decided to start picking him.
Do you? Does that change if it's only Mario Kart as far as like the class? So like.
In
keeping it classic,
original
like
Mario
light,
Kart,
medium,
I
and
played Koopa Troopa, but that's because he was broken.
Okay.
He was way too good in that game.
Okay. What's something that all of those have in common, with the exception of the last
Um, I like playing the small, fast characters in most games.
one? Okay. Is there a buff that you would give to any of them or all of them?
Okay, I would revert the assassin rework so I could play old Fizz again. I would I don't think. Well, I'm not good enough for Smash where buffs would make a difference because I'm just trolling anyway. Really.
Yeah.
Oh, and then WoW, I would revert rage normalization and go back to the original way that rage worked, where it was based on the amount of damage that the white hit did, is how much rage you got.
Okay. The only other ones you could lump all fighting games. Would you give Johnny Cage better crushing blows?
Yes.
Did you have one from?
Although I'm not good enough at Mortal Kombat 11 to really be, so asking for buffs for Johnny Cage is kind of silly, especially since I think he's considered good now after the most recent patch. But I mean, when back at the launch, his crushing blow requirements were really bad, and so it made him kind of like hard to win with. But I mean, that was not what was holding me back.
Okay. Favorite console? That's of all time, right?
Yes.
So,
PlayStation 2.
But I did not see that coming. So then memories playing that console.
Memories playing that console. I remember playing. Man, was I gonna say PlayStation 2? Because I remember there was something that I thought of about GameCube when I wrote that question. But
GameCube, after I said N64, I was like, GameCube is a weird choice because it's not historically like.
Well, a lot of my favorite games of all time are for PlayStation 2. And like I remember playing Metal Gear 2, which was actually the first Metal Gear that I played. I played Metal Gear 1 later.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that and just being blown away by how cool it was. I remember I used to live I was renting a house with a bunch of other guys, and I had like the smallest bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I also had like a second room that was my room, kind of, and that's where I had like the setup of like it was just this. It was a pretty tiny room, but it was just like my TV and its stand with all the games beneath it was on one end of the room, and a couch was on the other end. So it was just like, but it was kind of cool because it was like almost like a theater the way it was because it was really dark in there when you shut the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember playing a lot of games in there, and that was on PlayStation 2 and on Xbox One, but mostly just like I remember playing Final Fantasy X for the first time on that setup, and I remember playing that's right, Metal Gear, like we just talked about, and just like a lot of my favorite games from there are on there. So yeah, playing PlayStation 2 games in that little tiny theater of a room was
your best.
Yeah.
Do you? You kind of answer a lot of the best games of that, but do you have any others?
For PlayStation 2, man, I feel like I'm missing something.
Is that Twisted Metal Black? I actually like
Twisted Metal Black was on that system. I feel like I'm really missing something.
It's hard. I mean,
yeah, Metal Gear Solid 3 was on that system, which is an absolutely incredible game. And I actually didn't have like a good computer at that time, so I played Final Fantasy 11 on the PlayStation as well.
Okay. Is there a remake from that console that you could guarantee that you'd want to see?
I think remake, not really, but sequel, I would like a new Onimusha, but a new one. Okay. Not a remake.
All right, so now we're gonna switch gear to series. What's your favorite series?
Favorite series are Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, Mario Brothers, and I feel like saying Mario and Zelda is so like lame, but also true for everyone.
Yeah.
So Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, Mario, Zelda, and I feel like there's one other one that I should say, but we'll go with those four. That's fine. Okay.
What's your best game of each of those series?
For Final Fantasy, I think that it's 6. which is released in the U.S. originally as 3. Most people now know that that's 6, but just for clarity's sake.
Mm-hmm. Metal Gear.
Metal Gear 3 is the best. I think 2, like, I personally look back on fondly because it's the first one that I played, and is actually mind blowing that it's a PlayStation. Well, both Metal Gear 2 and 3, but Metal Gear 2 for like it's only like the second or third year after. I think the second year that the PlayStation 2 was available. To think that that's a PlayStation 2 game that came out the second year that it was available is like crazy. Mm-hmm. It looks so much better than everything else. And then
Mario.
For Mario World is my favorite.
And then Zelda.
For Zelda, it's Link to the Past.
Alright, and what would you say is the worst game of each series?
For Final Fantasy, I would definitely say 15. It does feel kind of like a cop-out since it's the newest one, but it is, without question, the most different of them. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense if you are familiar with it. And then, for Metal Gear, again, it's going to be the newest one, which is 5. I just think the first 3 are kind of like the original trilogy. That's like what the game is supposed to be, so it's impossible to answer those 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then between 4 and 5, 5 is just the lesser game. For Mario Brothers, it's definitely Sunshine. I feel like there's like some revisionist history on that game, because when that game came out, it was not that. I mean, it was popular because it was a Mario game, but like people were like, Mario 64 was so good. Why this? Why Flood? And but now I feel like it gets talked about like it's like a really good game. Also, it introduced Baby Mario, which is like my
Bowser,
least favorite Mario character.
You mean Bowser?
Yeah, Baby Bowser. Yeah, sorry.
That's true. I forgot I did that.
I do not like that character. And then for Zelda, yeah, this is kind of feels weird because you said the same thing, but Skyward Sword, the controls just kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah. Okay. What is the one game you want to see a sequel or remake of the most?
I mean, we'll exclude Final Fantasy VII Remake since it's getting one, obviously. Although I don't think that would be my choice even if I did have my choice. I would probably pick... I would actually probably pick Final Fantasy VI if, like, it was done by the Octopath Traveler, like, Bravely Default team.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything, I would rather just have a new one. That's like the old, like back to basics.
The new IP.
Yeah, well, I just mean like if Final Fantasy 16 was made by the Bravely Default team, that would be better to me than if they remade 6. But a 6 remake would probably be my number one choice.
Okay, so what is, I can't remember the way you worded it for me, but one change to one version that would make it amazing? You mean a pre-existing, like, right, was that the intent? Like, one change to one of the existing series?
Yeah, so, like, in this case, I would say it's the level scaling in Final Fantasy VIII. If you remove that from the game, it would make the game so much better. I replayed Final Fantasy VIII this year because of the remaster, but also because I'm trying to replay all of the PlayStation Final Fantasies this year so I can compare them for maybe a later video that I'll do. But basically, in my playthrough of Final Fantasy VIII, the first time, I did not like the draw system, which is the main battle mechanic in that game. And I thought it was tedious. And so I basically beat the game like on the minimum amount of character power that you could possibly have. Like, I was really just by the skin of my teeth making it through. And like, if I would wipe to a boss, I would maybe power up a little bit extra, but just enough to keep going, because I just didn't want to be bothered with the draw system. So this time playing through, I was like, well, I've beaten the game already, so I don't really care if I read a guide.
Mm-hmm.
So I just read the min-max guide, like what you can do to make yourself as overpowered as possible. And I have to tell you, without question, it makes the game 100 times more boring. It was so much more fun when I was barely able to beat the bosses and like really struggling and like trying to
Mhm.
beat it, compared to this time where not only because I was overpowered, but also because part of min maxing and making yourself overpowered in that game, because of the monster level scaling, the monsters scale and level with whatever level you are, means that running from every non boss character is actually min maxing the strength of your character,
Yeah.
and that is not fun for obvious reasons.
It's weird because you would think level scaling would be good in other games, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah.
3. I wish that had level scaling because the most fun is when I'm not overpowered.
Yeah.
To me. All right. So, what is a game or series that you have not played but you have always thought you would like or interested?
I have two answers for this one, and both of them go back to the fact that I don't have a PlayStation 4 because when this generation came out, I just wasn't in a place where I could afford both consoles, and so I only have an Xbox right now. Well, I have a Switch as well, but for those two, I only have an Xbox. And PlayStation, although now I could have both, and I want a PlayStation 4, it's been like I've been in this holding pattern of like, well, the PlayStation 5's almost out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just get it then and play these games. But Persona and Yakuza are both two games that I feel like they look like so much fun, but I haven't had the opportunity to play them.
Okay. Kind of similar, but what genre you feel like you should like but you don't?
I don't know the answer to this question. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it, even though yeah, I I don't know. I don't have an answer.
That's fair. I mean, my answer was a genre I technically liked, but I feel like we play them all, kind of.
Yeah.
Too. There's not one I think I exclude from, at least personally. What is your favorite genre then?
Definitely like role playing games, but like in 2019, I think a more accurate way to put it is I like slow paced games. I like games where there's a lot of that goes into like between combat planning and like organizing or like setting stuff up,
Mm-hmm.
and less like frantic in combat gameplay.
Yeah. Okay. What are the good changes and bad changes since you started with that genre?
With role playing games, mostly that it seems like there's this concerted effort that turn based can't be fun, and
Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all. And so that part makes me sad. That like Final Fantasy 15, namely, and a big reason why it's on my list as my least favorite Final Fantasy, moved away from turn based combat. They went to essentially a variation of the Kingdom Hearts combat system. So it's not like a new combat
Mhm.
system. Square has been using it, but I have never liked that combat
Yeah.
system, so I'm not a fan of it. What has gotten better is what's gotten better is like in the last 2 or 3 years, it feels like there's a resurgence in like going back to the roots of role playing games. So in a way, it's not really a compliment because it's saying they're going back to doing it the old way. But like the new Dragon Quest is very old school because of the popularity of re-releases on Switch. A lot of like PlayStation 1 type RPGs are getting re-released, like Grandia and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And of course, you have the Bravely Default Octopath Traveler team, who are doing some really good like traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess it's not so much something that's getting better in terms of new, but more that there are some developers that are heading back towards the old direction.
Okay. Favorite game from a design perspective and why?
Um, I really like Undertale a lot from a design perspective, in the sense that that game basically it kind of like brought together the idea of like an alternate way to come to a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can fight this person, or you can like negotiate with them, kind of. Uh, it's just, yeah, I really like the way that game is on that sense. I would say Undertale.
Okay. What about favorite original soundtrack?
Uh, there's a lot of good games for this, because Square notoriously has like a lot of really good soundtracks. So like, to get Final Fantasy out of the way, 8 has the best soundtrack by far. That's without question. But like, of games that came out in the last couple of years, I would say probably Celeste has the best soundtrack.
Okay. How about from a favorite game from the art style perspective?
Um, hmm. I'm a pretty big fan of like the pixel art stuff that is popular with indie games lately. But if I had to pick like a single game where I just think it looks really good, there's a game that came out last year called Gris. It's not like a particularly amazing game, and it's like a $5 game that takes maybe like 4 hours to beat, maybe 5 hours if you're really slow. But the game just looks, it's really cool. It starts out like in black and white, and every time you beat a level, it adds a color to the color scheme. And so, yeah, just the way that the art in that game is very cool.
All right. And then last in this area is your favorite or your game that everyone hates that you wish they actually liked or loved.
I have two games for this one. Classic is Final Fantasy VIII, without question, is the least popular Final Fantasy game. A lot of people who are genuine Final Fantasy fans do not like Final Fantasy VIII, and I just don't. I While I understand their qualms, I just wish that they could see how many, like, the game has so many qualities in other areas,
Mm-hmm.
but the battle system being kind of rough and tedious is, obviously, I can understand why, and it should be a bigger deal than it is. But like, man, everything else, the characters in that game, the soundtrack in that game, the just the way the scenes are cut together, where like when action turns into a cutscene, is just like, what an idea. I really, really like it. Oh, and the other one I wanted to say is Yoshi's Crafted World for this year, 2019. People gave that game a lot of crap. That game is actually really good.
Okay. I kind of want to try that actually, but it might be too late for me. So in the online era, what are some favorite memories of the most played games that you had?
Um, for Warcraft, it would probably be Ulduar,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, a lot of people consider it to be one of the better raids, but for me, more specifically, it was just that we had been in a 25-man guild for Nax, which was the raid right before that,
Mm-hmm.
and we paired down to a 10-man team, and so it was just kind of like a more like intimate group, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But I mean, that made it really fun. We were all like good friends, and it just made the experience more fun. There wasn't like random, like when you're in a 25-man guild, the truth is there's gonna be at least some people that are. It's like a coworker that you don't dislike them, but
Yeah.
they're just kind of there. Where like when it was 10-man, it was just like,
Pretty close.
yeah, it was like all the people that were there were friends of mine, and despite being just like a 10-man, it was called 10-man strict at the time, which means that
Yeah.
you were a
Yeah, there's
10-man
one.
group that did not have any 25-man gear. Despite being a 10-man strict team, we were server first for getting all the hard mode achievements done.
Mm-hmm.
Glory of Ulduar, I think, was the achievement for 10-man. And yeah, we had the 10-man Glory of Ulduar server first, despite being 10-man strict. So that was a really good memory from that. And then, I guess that's the only one that really sticks out. I've had a lot of fun playing different online games like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 recently, or League of Legends over the years. Even though some people say that's not fun to play with your friends, I've certainly been able to have some fun playing with my friends. But yeah.
All right. What's your least favorite memory from online era?
I think that's a weird question. I mean, I know I put it there, but I don't think I have an answer to that.
Okay. Do you have like a good change and one good change and one bad change since you first played?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, meeting people online is like way weirder now. And part of it's like the way the games are made, where it's kind of made where it's not a necessity to getting good.
Yeah. Well, it's made for convenience, but then that kills.
But at the same time, like the way people treat you like a weirdo for like being friendly.
Yeah.
So like nobody like talks anymore. And like when I think about how many friends I have from online games that I've never actually met in real life, or didn't meet in real life until 2 or 3 years down the road after knowing them from online, or like how many random people like playing Halo 3 that were on my friends list that were just people who I played with once and liked playing with and played with again later. Now it's like that never happens. You don't talk to people that you group with unless they're people who you came with. And
regular.
Yeah, and no, well, actually getting into that.
Yeah.
And then if you do run with someone and you think, hey, this person's pretty good, and you add them, when you message them back, they're just like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't expect you to message me back. I said you could add me, but you weren't supposed to message me. But yeah, it's like people aren't expecting you to message them ever again, even if you do add them. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that has improved, I think that options for like multiplayer games online options are much better than they used to be. Stuff like being able to join into like basically like the stuff that used to have 4 people locally to play. 4-player type co-op games online have improved a lot.
Especially, actually, I didn't think about this earlier when but like one thing that I like is like 4-player games before used to be shared screen, but like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is an example of like if you are each on your own system, you have free reign. You're not tied to the one screen.
Yeah. Also, the whole screen watching.
Yeah.
For those of you who did not play offline PvP back in the day with like first-person shooters, like looking at the other person's map was like a thing.
And actually, what I will say on that is, at some point it was a thing, so you just actually needed to do it.
Yeah, it was impossible.
It's definitely why I was so good, but at the same time,
you
could
make an
agreement. Do it
agreement
versus me too. Like
you could make an agreement not to do it, but it was impossible.
Yeah, that's
even like if you're good enough.
The temptation is too.
Well, it's not even the temptation. If you're good enough, you can tell by your peripheral vision where they are.
Yeah, that's right. Like it's just a little minimal amount of effort it took to know where somebody was.
Yeah,
was too great. Okay, so you could design the next expansion, I guess, in WoW. What would it be?
I think my favorite WoW lore has to do with like either Old Gods, although I believe the next patch is going to be an Old Gods patch, so there's that. Or I also really like the stuff that is about like the Scourge, basically.
Oh yeah.
So I think that if the next one was like Scourge related in some way, maybe like whatever happened to Bolvar now that he's the Lich King.
It's been like 4 expansions since then. Okay. What is the most annoying lie a developer can tell?
Okay, I actually want to go back. You skipped a question I really wanted to answer.
You did?
Which is adding a class to WoW.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, my bad.
I really want a time mage. Uh, this is gonna sound a little weird. Or in Final Fantasy, red mage has meant kind of different things throughout the years, but mostly it's kind of meant like a jack of all trades, master of none mage.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's like a priest mage hybrid, but they suck at healing compared to a priest. They suck at nuking compared to a black mage. So in Final Fantasy XI, which was the first Final Fantasy Online, they kind of came to the conclusion that like, well, there's no use for this person. You just want a mage or you want a healer.
Yeah.
A bad healer, you don't want him, and a bad mage, you just want a mage. So the solution they came up with was red mage in Final Fantasy XI, even though in every other Final Fantasy it does not mean this. It's basically a time/debuff/buff mage. So your job was buffing party members with like haste and like mana restore and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like debuffing the monster with like attack speed slows and like a paralyze, which is like a percent chance to miss your turn. So it kind of functions like a parry, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, yeah, it was a really cool and fun class to play, where and the way it played solo was completely different too. I'm talking about specifically the way Final Fantasy XI Red Mage played inside of a party, where Bard in Final Fantasy XI also was kind of like this, where your entire job was buffing your teammates and debuffing the monsters.
Would that replace a healer? In a 5-man dungeon that you have 3 DPS, 1 healer, and 1 tank. Not because it wouldn't make sense. Would that replace the healer role then? Because the way the games have progressed, I don't see them ever.
Yeah, that's a little interesting now that you mentioned
like
it.
I don't see them taking a DPS away because.
Yeah, it's a little weird because in Final Fantasy XI parties were 6 members, and so the requirement originally what you would want was a tank, 2 melee or 2 physical DPS, and a tank, and then you would have a ranged DPS, a healer, and a buffer. And then this kind of gets into the metagame of Final Fantasy XI, how the players kind of learn to manipulate the game mechanics to remove stuff from the game.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually we just stopped using healers, and eventually we just stopped using tanks. So it would literally just be like all DPS and a buffer and like maybe a healer, but the buffer, there was so little healing that needed to be done because of the way we were abusing the game mechanics that the buffer could heal and buff. But I will say this. Bard in Final Fantasy XI was strong enough, like their buffs were strong enough, that 2 DPS would do more damage than 3 DPS without a Bard. So you could definitely do it by making them a DPS and making the buffs as ungodly overpowered as Bard buffs in Final Fantasy XI were.
In City of Heroes, it's the closest to me to a controller class.
Yeah.
That it's not exactly the same, but what I was saying would work well is if they were able to do that, where a controller could replace any, kind of even the tank, depending on the controller type. But that game was a little different because WoW is the least like this, I guess, where you had like your main job and your backup job could be something else.
Mm-hmm.
So your backup job sometimes was the ability to heal.
Final Fantasy XI had something kind of like that.
It wasn't good as a healer, but that game didn't have a true healer main spec. It had defense, so like, and then heal back up and then controller.
Yeah, in Final Fantasy XI, you would have a backup job as well. And what I was talking about earlier about abusing game mechanics, eventually the player base learned how to reduce incoming damage so much that having the backup healer spec on one of your characters was enough.
That would, I think, fit in WoW right now, is the idea of tanks being able to take care of themselves decently, although it's not as much as it has been in the past, since the healing got nerfed that wave.
Yeah, I don't want to get... Yeah, I feel like this is getting derailed. Maybe a future episode.
Yeah.
But definitely the way that tanks could heal themselves in Legion was something I really liked. But we'll move on.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so then your most annoying lie a developer can tell.
I don't like when hmm not a lot bothers me in this department because I'm kind of like a grain of salt person at this point. Like I don't really believe anything until the game comes out. But I guess the thing that I don't like is when game developers say that like it's I guess it's kind of like the whole thing where it's like only the whole loot box only cosmetic thing, but I guess this isn't necessarily a lie. It's just I don't understand the purpose of playing an online like looter game and buying cosmetics at the same time. Cuz like
Yeah,
getting loot that has a look, that's like that's the draw of like games like WoW or Final Fantasy 11 in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's weird too. I think so in a game like Destiny, you mean?
Yeah, like you buy your skins, and then your drops don't change your appearance.
Where did it? Well, yeah, I agree. What do you think is the most overblown problem that critics or reviewers have?
The one that I thought of when I wrote this question was frame rate, because for me, honestly, I don't really notice frame rate. If it's above 30 frames, I honestly can't tell the difference anymore.
Well,
unless there's
even
like
if you can, is that really a problem?
Unless there's like fluctuating frame rate, then that's
yeah
can be an issue.
Right.
But yeah, I think frame rate is really overblown. Also, the other thing I would say though is to agree with you that length is a complete non-issue, and honestly, when game reviews like give bonus points for game length, I really don't like that because I think it encourages adding things like the whole dollar per hour thing where it's like how much game time did I get out for how many dollars I put in is really bad in the sense that the best way to get a good score in that category is to add quests that aren't fun.
Yeah,
basically.
That don't have anything to do with.
So, yeah. I really don't like it when people do that. A recent example is I recently played Link's Awakening for the Switch, and that game was full price. All I bought at Kmart, so I paid $50 because Kmart you get $10 off of Switch games. But the point is like $50, and it basically took me 2 games to beat the game. And I did feel kind of bad about that, but honestly, in hindsight, I am glad anyway because I want games like that to continue to be made where the entire time that I was playing, I was entertained, even if the game was short.
What do you think is the most overlooked stat or thing that positive reviews don't get enough credit for?
I think that character customization is overlooked or even negative, but I mean like that in a specific way, because if I would just say that, you would think I was wrong. And what I mean is, it kind of going back to the complexity between combat, where there's a lot of choices to make or a lot of stuff or variations to change between combats. So like you have level 1 or fight 1 or something, and then you go to town or you're between levels, and like there's a lot of stuff to do to prep for the next stage of the game. I like stuff like that. I wish there was more of it. And I don't think when games do it well, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance is an example of a game that has a lot of that actually. Although not as much, because like ultimately once you get enough points you can fill out everything. But I mean like stuff like that where there's a lot of in between battle prep work that you can do. I like that stuff.
What in the game would hurt a review score done by you the most?
Honestly, it kind of goes back to the other the other thing is actually filler. Filler just is really annoying to me.
Yeah.
I dislike it a lot. And the second it feels like I'm doing nothing, like I'm spending time in the game doing stuff, but I feel like I'm doing nothing, then that's a really bad situation for me.
Yeah. Especially when you can't access the other stuff because of a level lock or something.
Oh my god, I totally remembered. Okay. Biggest slide developers tell that annoys me.
Yeah.
PvE balance does not affect PvP balance.
Yeah, that's...
We don't have to go anywhere on
Yeah.
that one, but holy cow, I hate that one.
So then, moving on, thoughts on reviews just overall or in general?
I do use reviews to decide if I'm gonna buy a game or not, but in a way where it's like, okay, if I want to buy a game, I'll look at what the Metacritic score is, and if it's good, then I just get it. If it's bad, then I'll be like, okay, I want to know why they didn't like it.
Yeah.
So like Little Town Hero is an example of this, where I wanted to get this game because it sounds like it's kind of like a card game, like a more like a Slay the Spire type card game, not like a Magic the Gathering type card game,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like randomly generated cards in your hand, not like cards that you buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also, the music in the game was done by Toby Fox. He did the music for Undertale, which is a really good soundtrack. Well, he made the whole game, but
Mm-hmm.
he also did the soundtrack. Anyway, point being, it got really bad scores. And so I read the review, and I started reading it, and the first guy was like, sometimes it feels like you just get the wrong cards. And it's like, well, that's a card game.
Yeah.
So I was like, this guy is blowing out of proportion. But then I kept reading, and he's like, alright, so like there's a lot of monsters towards the end of the game where you can't damage them until you break their guard. But to break their guard, you need like 4 card combos in a single turn. So you'll just sit there waiting like 3 or 4 turns just to get the right card combination to even do damage. And it's like, wow, this sounds awful.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, this is legit. The game is actually not okay. And so I didn't get it. I haven't played it. But yeah, it's like that where it's like, if I want to get it and the review is good, I don't even read it. The score is good and I want it, I just get it. If the score is bad and I want it, I try to find out why. And if it sounds like a legitimate reason, like the battles are drawn out because it's impossible to do damage for turns at a time, then it's like, okay, this game is probably bad.
Okay, is there anything that you could say would improve reviews?
I've talked about this a lot with you, but I think 10-point scales are like super unnecessary and almost like just a problem at this point. Because, like, what's the difference between a 1 and a 4?
Yeah.
Like, 1 and 5 even. Like, anything 5 or below basically just says don't play this game.
Well, and even, like, to your point, 1 and 3, like, you would think, oh, maybe a 1 is to send a message to the producer or the developer, you know, like...
I mean, 3 sends a message.
But that's the same,
yeah.
that's what I mean. It's the same thing. All of those are, like, so historically not used.
Well, and then on top of that, a lot of these places that are using 10-point scales also do decimals on top of that.
Yeah.
Which is just like, if you can't... You're not even using half the scale to begin with. And now you're breaking it down to decimals. So now it's basically like only 7 through 10 are used because of decimals.
And that's still a 30-point scale in some cases.
Yeah. No, it is. Because you have all 7.1 through 10. Yeah.
Used.
So it's still a 30-point scale
Yeah.
since you're using decimals, even if you're only using 7 through 10.
Yeah.
So honestly, we just needed to get it simplified. Just 1 through 5, integers only. And then there's a difference between a 1 and a 2. There's a difference between a 2 and a 3, and so on and so on.
That is all the questions, although I have a last thing to close with that I'll just give my answer at the same time or after you give yours. I want to just kind of rapid fire, not say too much. Maybe we should just say the game. I want to go through each console, say your favorite co-op experience. I would say multiplayer experience. I guess if you have a competitive one, you could add that. But really, I'm looking for your favorite co-op experience.
Okay.
Because that's so. I would say we could start with Nintendo unless you have something. I don't know if I have anything before Nintendo existed. Nintendo probably is even tricky for me. Do you have one for Nintendo?
Not really. I mean, you could say like Mario 3, but the thing about co-op on Nintendo, it was mostly taking turns co-op.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a game that was true co-op there. Oh, I got it. I forgot. I do have one. I thought of it ahead of time and I forgot until it. But it's the arcade game ported. Ninja Turtles arcade game, the second one.
Oh yeah, we did have
ported
that.
to that, and the third one technically, but the second one.
My brother and I played that game.
That was
together.
actually really fun.
The third one, Manhattan Project, we did not have that one, but we did have the.
Yeah, I don't think I beat that one. Okay.
That one was very hard.
Yeah, I got far, but
the problem was the 2-button move was like OP in the second one, and the 2-button move in the third one costed health.
Yeah, everybody had a unique one in the third one, but it costed health unless you're on your last hit, and then that actually was kind of cool. But the fact that when you had one hit left, you could do it forever, so it was like high risk, high reward. Okay, so that's Nintendo. Did you have a Sega Genesis one?
No, I did not.
Okay, mine's ToeJam and Earl. All of the X-Men game. That's not really a good co-op game, but Super Nintendo.
Secret of Mana.
Mine would be Turtles in Time. So then do we go right to the N64? Is that right? I mean, for what big ones, there's some oddball ones that I probably won't list. N64.
Probably GoldenEye, even though that's PvP. I just don't think there's another option.
My N64. Mine is No Mercy or the WWF games. I guess
that's a really
tag
good
team
choice.
ones are.
Yeah, that's a really strong choice.
So then we would probably go to Dreamcast. Oh no, it's PlayStation 1 was next.
I didn't really play PlayStation 1 until on my I played all the PlayStation 1 games on my PlayStation 2, really.
I don't think I have a PlayStation. There's probably one, but my memory of that is not good enough to know it was limited to that system anymore. Okay, so then Dreamcast.
PvP again, but Soul Calibur 2.
Gosh, I might throw Oddball Ooga Booga out there because...
Oh, Ooga Booga was super fun.
I'm trying to think
we played that game a lot together, actually.
What really multiplayer games that had, besides the two that we just listed? Because if you think of it, there's a handful of games for that system that are good.
Oh, Power Stone.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Oh, that was... Yep, that's the one
that's
I technically
probably the best
owned.
version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I guess I'm thinking about co-op. Alright, so Dreamcast, we move on to probably GameCube and Xbox, original Xbox, so GameCube, they came out pretty much at the same time. Oh no, PS2 did come out next. So PS2.
They all kind of came out around, they're the same
PS2
generation.
was like a year ahead, but yeah.
So for Xbox, it's actually the original Halo. Playing, because that's like a true co-op, you're playing in the same space at the same time experience. As well as being like a revolutionary first-person shooter game.
I probably have to say the same thing, although those do have the X-Men Legends games. But I think the Halo one is still a bigger deal.
Yeah, X-Men Legends were like really good games, but Halo was just like...
Yeah.
It was
so legendary.
It was a game changer.
Playthrough with two people.
Yeah. And then for GameCube, I would probably say... Man... I don't know if I've played any multiplayer games on GameCube now that I think about it.
I'm
Unless
tunnel visioning
like
co-op too much. Yeah, that's right. I'm tunnel vision co-op too much, but competitive, I think there's some options maybe. But I actually really like Mario Kart Double Dash for what it's worth. Actually, that can be co-op too. That's
well, you know,
actually
a lot of people
think
a lot of people talk about Double Dash as being the best Mario Kart of all time.
I like it a lot, and it has a unique co-op experience. Let's say it that way. PlayStation 2, I pretty much only owned for the Rockstar game, so I don't know if I
mean,
have a
PlayStation
co-op
2
or
was
competitive game.
PlayStation 2 at that time was the only system with 2 controller inputs.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that. I owned the 4 one. So if I can figure out why I own the 4 one, yeah, that should tell me the game that we're looking for, multiplayer, because I have it. It was a separate box that you had to plug
Was it
in.
for SmackDown, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably. So then I'll just give it to PlayStation WWF or WWE game. They had a SmackDown versus Raw, like 2007 maybe, was pretty good. So sure, it's a wrestling one again.
Yeah, I
'Cause
can't
you're right.
remember playing any multiplayer games on PlayStation 2.
All right, so now we would go to PlayStation 3, technically.
Never played it.
I don't-
Honestly,
that's
I
the
can
only one
actually,
didn't own, so.
I can end this conversation right here and say, or for me personally, and just say, this is where PC became the multiplayer platform.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I'm not even doing it.
For me
PC.
personally,
But we have
pretty
Wii.
much until Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3,
Yeah.
to be completely honest.
Well, so that we could do. We have Wii, which I'm getting out over it. 360, which has a lot of games.
Yeah, but I don't think I played any.
I would probably just throw one of the Marvel Ultimate
Gears?
Alliances there, or Gears.
Gears actually
Gears
is a really
is
good
really
example.
Yeah,
And you played Resident Evil 5 co-op.
yeah. That's a bad game, but it's because it's terrible by yourself too.
But, yeah, I was mostly playing multiplayer on PC at that point. Although I played some Gears PvP. We actually has, Wii Sports is actually really fun to play with other people.
Yeah.
Like
So-
the pack-in.
I don't know if I have co-op for Wii, because I don't know of co-op for Wii. Although that did have, it's not the best Mario, but it was the first one where you could play together at this, like not take turns. That was side-scrolling or 2D. Super Mario.
Oh, yeah, I don't particularly like those,
No.
but yeah.
But it's different. My Wii one would actually be. Why can I not think of what I was just gonna say? Competitive wise, I might have to come back to it. I totally lost it because I got sidetracked on Mario. So we got three. I think we're in current gen now, because PS4. Oh, Wii U. Let's go to Wii U, because that's probably a quick answer. Mine would be Super Mario 3D. Land or World.
Yeah, I don't have an answer.
Then it would be PS4. You don't own one.
No.
I don't think I've played co-op. I have one for that actually. It's Gauntlet.
Oh, yeah,
It's
that game
actually
was
really
fun.
good.
Yeah.
That for games you like to see. No, I would like to see more games like that again.
Yeah, Gauntlet was fun.
It's
I
very
actually did
unique.
play that.
And then Xbox One. And we have Switch after that.
Well, Switch is easy. It's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
Yeah, that's it for me. Xbox One, I could say Dead Rising 3. Is actually kind of fun with two people. Because of the fact that you're not pulled into the same.
Oh, I really love that about
A Way Out. Actually, that is
A Way
a
Out.
good
Yeah,
game.
that's a good answer. I like that game. It's really fun for a playthrough. Actually, you reminded me of Super Contra 3 for the Super Nintendo. It blew my mind because I hadn't played Toe Jam and Earl before. Because I believe Toe Jam and Earl for the Sega Genesis has this, but it was on the top-down levels. If you were playing two-player, if you walked apart from one another, it would convert to split screen. And I thought that was so cool.
Oh,
that it
yeah.
did that.
Yeah, Toe Jam and Earl had this. And actually, so to back up, I have my Wii answer. And the original Xbox side thing is the Toe Jam and Earl 3 game. Kind of how you've said before, PS3 has some games you can't play on anything else, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Toe Jam and Earl 3 is one of those games where it was a true next gen update of the original Toe Jam and Earl. That's a lot of fun with two people. Wii, my game, it's kind of lame doing two of them, but I actually think Mario Kart 7 on Wii was really fun because it was the first Mario Kart you could play online reliably with a partner. I mean, you still each competed, but you could kind of, I think you could queue more.
Yeah, you could queue two people on the
Yeah.
same console online. We used to do that.
That was a lot of fun, actually, and they had their own ratings and everything. But yeah.
All right, well, I hope that you guys feel like you've learned something about us. That's wrapped up the episode. We actually filmed the second episode already as well, so hopefully that will be up shortly, probably sometime within the next week. But thank you guys for listening.
Yep. Thank you. And last thing I will say is, if you have a question that you want to ask, you could ask that in the comments too. I might have a better answer when I have more time to think too, because I can actually recall better. But yeah, any questions you want to ask us, feel free to leave those in the comments. And thank you.